how you can overcome stress in your life and how stress is affecting your body. Hi, my name is Dr. Alicia Shelly. So thank you so much for coming and sharing this time with me today. For those of this is your first time, I'm a board certified internal medicine, obesity medicine physician who specializes in helping people with not only losing weight, but getting to a better health place by implementing healthy habits in your busy lifestyle. So let's get started. So let's talk about stress. Now, I don't know about you, but a majority of us tend to have some type of stress in our lives. It doesn't have to be like all out craziness that's going on, drama in the family, drama at work, drama at home, but it may just be something small as you have like a deadline at work or, a family member just passed away. With COVID, we saw an increase in our stress. Because not only were we stressed about what is this disease, what is this condition, why does nobody know anything about it, but it was also, oh my gosh, am I going to get sick if I go to somebody's house, or could I bring this disease to somebody else? I know in my own practice, I saw a huge rise in anxiety. Not only anxiety among people, are they afraid they're going to get sick, but what if I pass it on to someone else? So definitely with COVID, we've been under a lot of stress. Now, let's talk about what are some biggest challenges that control your stress, okay? Feel free to write it in the chat. If you're looking at this on replay, just write #replay. I want to know, what is your biggest challenge to controlling your stress? A lot of times when I talk to people in my practice is that they say it's just time. There seems to not be enough time in the day to kind of overcome the different tasks they have to do, the different responsibilities. So they tend to actually put other people first and themselves last, and it leads to more stress. I had a lady in my office today who was taking care of her mother for several years. And when her mother passed and she finally had a chance to take care of herself, it turned out that she had diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and it was stressing her out. So not only was she stressed out when she was caring for her mom, now she's stressed out with, oh my gosh, I put myself on the back burner and now I have all these conditions. And so she's stressed out again about the medical conditions. So there's like this circle where she can't just kind of break the cycle of stress. Now let's talk about what are some causes. I've already mentioned some already. Some biggest causes can be work. Sometimes being around these people, you can't necessarily actually, decide who will be your colleague. Can be stressful. Some people have a lot of issues going on and they bring it to work and it's just so difficult. Or it could be your time management. You find that, as soon as you come from work, you may go home, but then you may have a second job. So you're just always working, going, and there's just not enough recovery time. Or it could be your family. How many of us, sometimes you can't choose the family that you have, and sometimes they stress you out. I have one patient, his family calls him and it causes him to be very stressed out. So sometimes you just can't win. Your family members can just stress you out. And sometimes it's more internal. It's how you view things and it just stresses you out so much. So there are many different causes of stress. But let's talk about when stress gets very extreme, where you start becoming burnt out. So here are the 7 signs of being burnt out. Number 1, you may find that either you're sleeping too much or you're not sleeping enough because of just how stressed you are. You may be forgetful of things that you never would forget. Now you're forgetting. You can just have a lack of interest in doing things, or things you used to like to do, you don't even want to do anymore. Sometimes you could just work hard and just feel so drained and have without signs of higher productive. Even though you're so drained, you don't feel like you're being more productive in your life. You can get frequent illnesses. You could have depression. There's so many different signs out there for burnout. And this is what's most important to kind of figure out, are you there? Are you at that burnout stage? And if so, you may actually need professional help to kind of help you get through it. And it's okay. A lot of people, especially during COVID, when we look at healthcare workers, people who had to go to work, during COVID, where people may be in isolation, they had a high degree of stress and burnout that we're seeing now. Now, let's think about how chronic stress affects your weight. When you are having increased stress, it actually leads to increased cravings. So you may be craving a lot of sweets, a lot of salty foods you would normally not crave, but you are now. Also, with that increased stress, it increases your cortisol level. And what cortisol does, it actually helps increase your fat deposits. Also, not only are your cravings increasing, your cortisol increasing, your hunger hormone is increasing, and you're feeling more hungry than usual. Also, like I said, when your cortisol increases, your fat storage, it gets deposited. So your fat storage increases and ultimately your weight increases. So all of these have effect when you have chronic stress. So just to see it a little bit in a different light. So with acute stress, it definitely activates your adrenal medulla, which is the adrenal gland that's on top of the kidneys. It increases your sympathetic activation, which is your fight or flight, which decreases your food intake because your system's heightened. However, if you have chronic stress, that comes from a different place. It comes from your brain, which is where your hypothalamus or your pituitary is, which causes the adrenal cortex, which is the other part of the adrenal gland, to increase that cortisol level, which increases your sugar, your fat consumption, which leads to more fat storage, and most importantly, in that abdominal area. So you have more abdominal obesity, which leads to increased insulin resistance, which can lead to increased blood sugar levels. So these are all the chronic things that happen when you have chronic stress. So let's take a moment and talk about what are some ways we can reduce stress. Number one, I would say, is to make yourself a priority and do not feel guilty for making yourself a priority. Sometimes as women, sometimes as mothers, although I'm not a mother, but when I see a lot of my mothers in my practice, they feel guilty for putting themselves first. They feel like they need to put their kids first. I'm not telling you don't neglect your kids. I'm not telling you that. I'm just saying that you need to take out time for yourself. In order for you to care for others, you have to care for yourself. And it's okay to care for yourself. When you're in a plane and they say if the little nodule, if the little mask is distended, you have to put the mask on yourself first, and then you put the mask on your child next. Why? It's because if you're worrying about putting this mask on the child and you're not getting oxygen, guess what? You're about to pass out. And you're no good to that child. Therefore, you have to make sure that you make yourself a priority, take out time for yourself. Don't feel guilty when you do it. So, with that being said, what are some ways we can reduce stress? Number one, you can just sit and listen to quiet. You could just, look outside. For those people who live on beaches, I am so envious of you because sometimes I wish I could just sit and look at water and just look at how beautiful the water is and just relax. So just enjoy your time. You can take a bubble bath. You can get a massage. You can read a book. You can get your nails done. You can do whatever it is you like to do to reduce your stress. And guess what? There's no right or wrong. You just have to do what you like to do. But you need to make sure you implement these stress relievers either on a daily or on a weekly type of time frame, because sometimes we forget. We are so busy doing everything else and we forget to do things that actually help us feel good, that help us to relax. Let's think about some other ways we can manage our stress. Number one, if you're into meditation is helpful where you're doing deep breathing. If you're into more faith-based where you're actually praying, prayer, all these different things are ways how you can manage your stress. Exercising, getting moving is important. So when you actually exercise, it increases your endorphin levels, which are the hormones that make you feel happy, that make you feel good. So why don't we do more of exercise? We need to. So try to implement that into your lifestyle. Also, think about just being in nature where you're just looking at the trees, looking at the grass, looking at the birds. Nature can be so calming and actually try to help you to rejuvenate and to recharge. Getting a good night's rest. Sometimes we're so busy doing things that we forget to go to bed on time. And we wonder why we wake up so tired and groggy and grumpy. Well, we need to get our 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So definitely by getting enough rest is going to be important. Connect socially with others. Even if you feel like, you may have moved to a different city, you don't know anybody, but there are ways like different meetup groups where you can meet people, where you can interact with people. Make sure you're calling your friends, your family on the phone just to kind of stay connected to someone. I think the one thing about COVID that I realized that I'm personally introverted. So I sometimes can be in a room and be very happy not saying anything to anybody. But what I realized with COVID is that I need to reach out to people. I miss talking to people. I miss just having that social interaction. And so it's important to interact socially. Also eating well, making sure that you're eating your fruits, your vegetables. When you eat well, when you eat healthy, you actually feel better. You feel just a relief. You don't feel quite as bloated. You don't feel quite as stuffed. You just feel good. And also make sure you prioritize your tasks, make your list, what you need to do to help reduce your stress. Oh, and I forgot, reduce caffeine. So definitely with caffeine, it actually can cause you to feel more keyed up. It can cause you to have more energy. It can cause your heart to beat fast. So reducing the amount of caffeine that's in your diet is important. So with all this being said, how do you today are going to implement ways to relax in your everyday life? Well, like I said before, number one, make yourself a priority and do not feel guilty. Do not feel guilty. And then decide what you want to do to have self-care, whether it's to get a massage, get your nails done. I mean, I think one time for me, I was like, man, I always wanted a air fryer. So let me go buy an air fryer. It was just the self-care, whatever it is that you enjoy that you should do for yourself, and do not feel guilty about it. And then lastly, schedule it. Put it in your schedule, because sometimes things that you don't write down, you will forget. And I don't know about you. I'm like, man, there's something I was supposed to do, but I forgot what it was. And that's okay. Just schedule it. Schedule it. So in the comments, post what you plan to do to improve your healthy habits and how you plan to relax and how often you plan to relax. So this is Dr. Alicia Shelly. And please feel free to join me. I do have a free resource that I put in the comments, so that if you want to actually look at this, about 5 ways to get started with your weight loss journey. So if you're interested in getting started, this is a good resource for you. And if you're looking for more information, feel free to join my YouTube channel or my podcast, Back on Track, Overcoming Weight Regain, where we actually talk more about what you can do to improve your health. Thank you again for listening to me, and I look forward to seeing you on next time. Have a wonderful day.